Hey everybody, this is Ronnie Dean. We're on the set of Nashville Side Streets, and I want to let you know that the video you're about to see is from 2014. We had a gentleman in here, his name was Richard FAGAN. He's a famous writer here in Nashville, Tennessee, had made a lot of cuts with a lot of famous people. And that's saying something considering how many people are here trying to do the same thing. But he worked his whole life here. In 2016, he passed away from cancer. So we'd like to re-air his show in remembrance of him. Richard FAGAN, and this is Nashville Side Streets, and my name is Ronnie Dean.
Yeah. Let me be your mailman, and I always come through. There's no denying, come rain or shine, I'll deliver my love to you. I do things by the letter, you can put your stamp on me, 'cause there ain't nobody better for a special delivery. Like a pony express in the wild, wild west, I ride hard all night long. I can settle up fast, get you there first class, long before the dawn. You know your mail's gonna get to you, come snow, rain, sleet, or hail. 'Cause I'm a top flight, hold you tight, get you there by daylight, do you ride overnight mail. Well, I know your heart is fragile, so I'll handle it with care. There ain't no doubt I know love's right, so baby, let me take you there. I'll bring you cards and flowers, but I know what you need. Just give me 24 hours, satisfaction guaranteed. Like a pony express in the wild, wild west, I'll ride hard all night long. I can settle up fast, get you there first class, long before the dawn. You know your mail's gonna get to you, come snow, rain, sleet, or hail. 'Cause I'm a top flight, hold you tight, get you there by daylight, do you ride overnight mail. I deliver. You know your mail's gonna get to you, come snow, rain, sleet, or hail. 'Cause I'm a top flight, hold you tight, get you there by daylight, do you ride overnight mail. Yeah, I'm a top flight, hold you tight, get you there by daylight, do you ride overnight mail. Overnight mail. Overnight mail. Overnight mail. Yeah. I got here in 1985.
So you said that you wrote with Hank Jr.?
No. I was joking that I wrote with the late Hank Sr., but he was already late. So that credit was really a Hank Jr. cut in 2005.
Well, still, that's more than impressive. This guy has made his living playing music and playing. Did you do anything else at all?
No, minimum wage when I was younger. That's about it. And, it's feast or famine, and it's mostly famine. And by the time I got here, I started to get a run of good fortune. And in 5 years, then I got a number one, had a little run.
That's amazing. I've been here 25 years, and I've watched a lot of people come and go, and most of them go. They come, and even if they're really good or whatever, as Richard will tell you, this is full of great artists and musicians here and songwriters, so they go home. But Richard stuck around, and he was successful, along with a few others here. And it's amazing to me that you've had this many cuts. I think it's really neat. When was your last cut that you had?
Jason and the Scorchers in 2009. And Casey Jones cut, what was it? Christmas in Rehab, and so did Cletus T. Judd. I wrote it with Casey Jones and Joe Collins. So those were the two latest cuts. There's a lot of people threatening cuts on my songs, though. So
really, threatening cuts? You mean calling you and saying that they want to cut the stuff?
Well, it's like I got a new one, and I think it's a hit. But I mean, it's just a little home demo, and it's reggae. But
it would of course be done kind of dubstep country. I mean, you get the A pickers in on the session, it's going to sound like radio, hopefully next year's radio. But a lot of people can't hear it, but two guys, Timothy Chance, who's comes from a country family, but he's a hip hopper and rapper. He wanted to cut it. And then there's another guy, I'd sent this little video of it to the guy that I wrote Sold with, Rob Royer, his son Matt Royer. He's 20 something. And he produces and engineers this guy Snow Smith. So when I sent it to them, Matt called and said, "Do you mind if we demo this?" And I said, "No." So I asked Snow when we were getting together to write. I said, "Why do you want to demo it?" Because this is the direction I want to go as an artist. And he was just signed to Sony Music as a writer because they like what he's doing. I mean, he's like pop veering country instead of the other way around.
I signed him as a staff writer?
His writing is very, very pop. I mean, catchy as hell. So I'm flattered that he wants to cut it.
That's really neat. That's really neat. So basically, right now, what are you doing?
Well, the health issue. Last June, I was given 6 months to live, and they were wrong about that, folks. But, I've been on this juicing diet, so I was already cutting down writing. I write when there's somebody to write with that I enjoy and it's comfortable. I write with Jeff Dane and his producer Dave Tuff. Well, we wrote one song, and that's the one I think is a hit. And we just wrote another one, and I don't know that one yet. But
that's an interesting thing.
We're writing well, and Snow, I'm writing good with Snow.
So he's told me a little bit about this as far as his health and what he went through. I stress health all the time. I'm a vegetarian, and my wife is too. We're real careful about diet and whatever. And Richard basically turned his whole disease around with food.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that I got I thought I had the flu, and so I go into the VA emergency room, and they did a CAT scan and blood work, and they said that I had stage 2 liver cancer, too late for chemo, too far gone for a transplant. And the hepatologist showed me the picture of my liver, and all this is like starry, starry night, which they said was all cancer. And right in the middle, there's a big ball, and they said that was a tumor. So I didn't believe him. So, prayer led me to a person that knew this doc down in Alabama. He's not an MD, he's a nutritionalist. And he put me on this 95% juicing diet with supplements and other things, and it worked. And it turned out, long story short, that it wasn't cancer. It was a CRV virus. I was the one that told the oncologist that, who told the hepatologist that, who had wanted me to have chemo for the little. He said, well, what we thought was a tumor is gone, but there's these three little ones. And I mean, it's really funny because they want to sell you something. So look, if you get cancer, first thing, get a second opinion, with alternatives, because there's many alternatives, and prayer, meditation, and diet, I think, are the foremost.
I agree. The second thing, we found Nancy, and actually I ran across this before I met Nancy, but there's another product called Essiac, which is a lady by the name of Renee Cassie, turn of the 19th century, or turn of the 20th century, cured thousands and thousands and thousands of people. She was in Canada of cancer of all kinds. And this stuff does really work. We've actually seen it work with a friend of ours that his wife got cancer about 14 years ago, breast cancer, and she had the lumpectomy, basically, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, she's getting well, and they told her that she had cancer throughout her body and that they were going to have to remove the breast and whatever, and a year later, because of this Essiac, she was cured, and that's the truth. And I saw it firsthand, basically. I've talked to her many, many times. Nancy and I have taken it as a preventative, but it's Essiac, ESSIAC. There's a lot of different ways of doing things.
There are many things. Ozone is good. There's infrared therapy. There's a lot of things, and the docs ain't going to tell you about it because
they don't know.
They're just in this little circle of thinking, and they think they're scientific, but they're not, because they're not open-minded to empirical evidence. a doctor told me I don't believe in alternative remedies. Well, I saw him like a few weeks ago after a year, and we didn't discuss it because I don't want to ask him and have him say I don't believe in it, because here I am, and they're that much in denial. And to me, when a doctor tries to scare the hell out of you, think of an Aborigine, witch doctor pointing the bone. If you believe it, you're dead. So don't believe it.
No, not.
Find out more, and there's things you can do. So anyway, with that happy note,
here's Richard. What are you gonna do, Richard?
I think it might be a little high for me, but there's no audience to get anything.
This is the live show. You can do anything you want.
Sure. I'm just trying not to expel gas in any loud manner. And if I do, I'll put it in the form of a question.
The first live show that we had in here was, I had my own group in here, and we were playing. I had a bass player sitting over here, and I kicked the microphone over in the middle of the show. And then I thought, well, big deal. I'll just get up and pick it up. I told everybody, this is the live show, but the microphone broke. And then I had to change the microphone. So it was a little bit embarrassing.
Wow.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. I wrote this with Dave Tuff and Jeff Dane. I can remember their names. I can remember the song. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Fireworks exploding in our hearts, tangled up in the backseat of my car. Moonlight shining through the trees, magnolia on the evening breeze. Feeling you against my skin, going places we've never been. I wanna be here by your side, making love till the morning. I'm gonna need another night like this. You got something that I can't resist. One kiss and I never wanna let you go. Oh, oh, don't wanna miss another minute. Don't want another day without you in it. You're all I want, and I know I'm gonna need another night like this. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Never felt it coming on so strong. Now you got me right where I belong. We could head west out of town, watch another sun go down, find a perfect place to park, slow dancing underneath the stars. I never want this thing to end. I wanna do it all over. I'm gonna need another night like this. You got something that I can't resist. One kiss and I never wanna let you go. Oh, oh, don't wanna miss another minute. Don't want another day without you in it. You're all I want, and I know I'm gonna need another night like this. Tonight is where it all begins. I wanna feel this thing all over and over. I'm gonna need another night like this. You got something and I can't resist. One kiss and I never wanna let you go. Oh, 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 don't wanna miss another minute. Don't want another day without you in it. You're all I want, and I know I'm gonna need another night like this. Gonna need another night like this. Whoa, gonna need another night like this. Whoa, gonna need another night like this. Whoa, I'm gonna need another night like this.
I would imagine by this time you got some kind of clout.
No, I don't. I have no clout at all. It's like, the cycle of fame. It's who's Rich Fagan? Get me Rich Fagan. Get me somebody like Rich Fagan. Give me a young Rich Fagan. Who's Rich Fagan? It's a cycle, so.
So you told me, I think we talked once before, something about something in 1975 or 76 was your first cut here. Did you say that?
No, the
in Nashville?
Well, the first cut in here was, I moved here in 85, and by 86, I was getting cuts.
So what record label was that on? Did you promote that yourself?
No, when I first came to town, I basically was sleeping on a friend's couch and, walking up and down Music Row with cassette tapes back then. And, my first day in town, because I've been keeping ledgers since 79, so I looked and it didn't say, it just said I went to some publishers and all, but it just mentioned the big names, but in the next entry it says that I rewrote Oh Naomi, so I know that my first day in town, at the Buddy Lee building, I met Peggy Bradley, and she was instrumental in helping a lot, and she became our administrator a few years later. But I also, walking up and down the curb, there was Gallico Music, and my co-writer in L.A., Jody Victor, had given her publishing up a year or so before on the song, but we were holding off, and I thought, well, I talked to my partner Tom, I said, well, it'd be good for a cut, so... Shelby Kennedy was working there, and me and him just hit it off real good. And he said, yeah, man, I'll introduce you to my dad and my brothers. Well, his dad's Jerry Kennedy, who had an office in the Welk building. And, he was a session player on a lot, like played dobro on Harper Valley PTA, played guitar on Roy Orbison.
Yeah, Roy Orbison, yeah.
So, him and his brothers, Brian and Gordon. So that opened some doors. So my first cuts were from Jerry Kennedy. Americana and Real Good Feel Good Song.
Americana's real big right now.
Oh, it's as a style of music. No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting off mic. No, it was the title of the song. Mo Bandy's Americana went to number 8 on the country chart.
Very cool.
And George H.W. Bush used it in his campaign. And
As a writer, when you, what is it, how much, like if you get a number one hit, it's got to sit there for how long before you get a pretty good chunk of change at the end of the year?
9 months a year. 9 months to a year.
That's pretty good.
But then it'll be big for at least a few quarters, maybe it'll seem big for a few years. Well, I had a run, so Be My Baby money started coming in. Then I had Sold, and that started coming in. And then the next year, I had Only on Days That End in Y, which, by the way, brought twice as much money in. But it wasn't a big hit. It went to like 5, and he didn't even put all the words I put in the bridge, which is, I think, why it only went to 5. But God bless you, Clay Walker. Thanks for cutting my song. But
Nashville was a different place at that time. There was different energy coming out of the buildings on Music Row than there is now. Totally different. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I noticed, I was here when Chet Atkins passed away. And after he passed away, it wasn't 6 months to a year after that, there was 40, 50 buildings for sale.
Oh, yeah.
Down on Music Row. It just changed everything. And I don't know what it was. It was like pulling the plug or something. I think a lot of it went to L.A., and I think a lot of the production was being done in L.A.
Well, I've heard that Nashville's more Hollywood than Hollywood at this point. It really is.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's just a very different place from even when I got here, which was 1990. I stepped in here in November of 1990, and it's changed drastically. I got to see it before it did, though.
You got to watch the boom happen.
I did.
And what happened was, before the boom, there were, well, for every country station, I just got to put this somewhere because I got to use my hands. There were 5 adult contemporary stations for every country station. When the boom hit, there were 5 country stations to every adult contemporary station. So my first question is, who are these DJs and what do they know about country music? These program directors and everybody. So, but the good part is that a number one made 5 times the money because of airplay. The odd thing is that a top 30, top 40 makes a lot less. They don't count the same. It's creative, accounting. And I don't understand it. When you're having a hit, you don't notice it at all. So,
all you young writers, listen, because it takes a while to get established, and this gentleman will tell you that. I mean, especially now with all the writers that are here, if you come and you can write, that's what this show is about, is getting people on here that are like Richard, or even people that can write and sound every bit as good as the people on the radio, and you don't get really ever a chance to see or hear them. And I got a guy coming in here, as he told me today, from, I think it was Texas. Is it Texas, Nancy, where that gentleman's coming from?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, we've had a couple in here. This gentleman is really, really good. He's a good writer. and he's he's older, and he's coming down here to do the show, but he's also coming down to promote himself and to see what he can do with his tunes.
Yeah.
He's every bit as good as anything that you hear on the radio, but I don't know. He might have to be here a long time, you know.
You never know. Jeff Dane has been here less than a year, and he's opening for Lost Trailers and actually singing lead for them when they go on, and that's pretty good.
It is,
but
good.
He's a hard worker, and I just say I thought you're very fortunate, because you must be, caught up in that creative vortex, and that's what you got to do. You do it for the love of it, and you meet people. It's like, if you move here, don't try to write with me. It ain't going to do you any damn good, and I don't really feel like it, okay? They think that, if they write with me, well, through co-writes, Mickey James, the guy that got me to visit Nashville and the reason I moved here, and then he got pissed off at Nashville early on and moved to Key West, where he ran into Shel Silverstein, and so Shel did some rewrites on some songs that I started with Mickey. And then one day I made a joke in a letter to Mickey about, he was taking up piano. I said, sounds like he's got a case of pianist envy. And in the back of his letter was a lyric sheet typed by Shel Silverstein. It said, pianist envy, there's a song, Shel Silverstein and Richard Fagan.
Pretty cool.
I never play it. It's on the piano, and I do play a little piano. There's one down here, but
Yeah, well, that one's got stiff keys.
Yeah.
I made that. I got a couple of clients of mine. I own another business. I'll tell you about it later. Go ahead. What do you got for us?
Well, you made me think that, really, we write for the love of it.
Positive.
That's why we start. We don't know anything about the business. If you love it, you're right. So we write all kinds of things. I got to take a sip of water. But I'll talk louder when I'm away from the mic. And
can you tell he's been on stage before?
So anyway, I wrote a song back in 2008. That's another story which I can get into or not, but I'll just say this. I do this song sometimes, particularly at the Bluebird, and I always preface it with, here's a song I wrote when I was waiting to go on trial for murder. I hope you like it.
I never read the morning paper. I never watch the evening news. And I don't wear no fancy Rolex or wear designer jeans and shoes. I never eat in fancy restaurants. I never hang out in the clubs. And I don't drive a shiny Cadillac or hang in honky-tonks or pubs. I don't get high on marijuana. I don't drink liquor, beer, or wine. I never cat around or pick fights. And I don't get them out to crying. I pray each morning when I wake up. I pray before bed every night. I thank the Lord for my redemption, because I'm finally living right. I used to be a sinner until I went too far astray. And it's only by God's grace that I'm standing here today. 'Cause one night high on Jose Cuervo, I killed my best friend with my knife. Now I'm in Tennessee State Prison, serving 99 to life. They put me in the morning paper. They put me on the evening news. They took away my fancy Rolex and my designer jeans and shoes. Now you may think that I have nothing, but I have all I'll ever need. If you ain't looking for redemption, maybe you'll find it just like me.
Very cool. Tell us what it's about, if you want to.
Well, April 27th of 2008 is my sobriety date. The night before, there was an altercation between me and my friend and business partner and roomie, Tom O'Terry. Now, we'd known each other for 32 years and never had never a physical altercation, nothing close to it. But he had something kind of eating him up for years. It wasn't me, it was just something personal. And he wouldn't let it go. And it was dragging him down. It was starting to affect all his relationships, because if people didn't buy into it and said, well, just get over it, then they weren't his friend anymore. It was just terrible. And I'm in this deal where I'm just watching him go down the tubes. And, actually, I talked him out of suicide. It came out of the blue. He said he wanted to do this. And I talked him out of it. That was, I don't know, 3 years before this happened. But it was just sinking, And anyway, one day, he's doing a walk before making dinner, and he fell and he cracked his rib. And he was in more pain than I'd ever seen him. So, I took him to the emergency room, and then the doctor. And the doctor put him on a fentanyl patch. Now, I know that name from the mid-'80s. I knew a guy that, at this frat house I used to hang at when I was homeless, and he became a doctor and got addicted to it. And told me about it. So and it's 50 times stronger than heroin. By the way, happy ending for that doctor. He didn't lose his license, and he now specializes in, drug disorders and all. But anyway, Tom was just, nodding out on this stuff. But when he came out of it, he was just flat out mean. And, he told me back in the 70s how downs can make you mean, And so I thought he knew. So after him driving me crazy for a few days, we're in the hallway, and I said, Tom, the fentanyl's making you mean. And he got this crazy look, like they went in the back of his head and turned red, and he said, back off, and I did. So a few more days later, though, and he's driving me crazy. Now I'm starting to walk the dog over to by the Mexican restaurant and getting me some Patron for my nerves. So, I had quit drinking just when I got a DUI, just not long before that, and doing great, but no program. So this happened. I just started drinking again, and he didn't notice it. He used to be able to tell if I had a beer back in the 70s. But anyway, so I just tell him again. I said, Tom, really, the fentanyl's making you mean. And he gets the same crazy look. And I said, wrongly, I shouldn't have said, I said, what are you going to do, hit me? And that's when the perfect storm took off. And first shot, split my eyebrow open, knocked off my glasses. It's like he wasn't him, So I just pretty much took it and, just let him pound. But he wasn't going to stop. Now, by this time, the drinks and shock are hitting in. And, I didn't even notice it, but I had a bite on my arm. So I must have tried to hug it out. And my ribs felt like they were broken. This is the next day. But anyway, out of desperation, I just took one step back and made a feeble sweep left to right with my little pocket knife. It's a switch. It's a Colt. And they're undetectable. I got it in my DUIs. But unfortunately, there's a blade on either side. So what may have done nothing, 2 feet away from me, he threw a punch right into it, which cut his wrist. He drops down cross-legged, and he's pouring, not spurting, but he says, give me the phone, get me so-and-so's number, and get the F out of here. So 32 years of listening to what he says, that's what I did. And I took some money because I figure he's got guns and he's crazy. But I figure he's all right. So I get a DUI because I'm trying to find a motel or a hotel, but a phone booth because I don't want him to know where I'm at because he's crazy. So I get the DUI. They sew me up. They think it's from the DUI. I put $8,000 damage on my new PT Cruiser. So anyway, they take me to jail, and I'm some big dude. I let him make the call for me, and I told him I'd bail him out. Turned out I couldn't. He had warrants in 3 other states. But anyway, I get bailed out. I'm almost home. The bondsman goes, oh, they said you forgot to sign one thing. We got to bring you back. So they do. As soon as the car pulls up, there's a cop there. He goes, are you Rich Fagan? I went, mm-hmm. And he says, well, me and the detective down at Harding Precinct want to talk to you about the altercation you had with your friend. So I'd go there. Now, I was waiting to get home and find out how things were. Because, by the way, I called, the line was busy, so I called my friend Joe Collins and said, check on him. So I'm anxious to get home and make things right. So I tell the detective my story. And he leans in and says, your friend's dead, murder one. So that's pretty much what I wrote the song from, although it was not Cuervo, it was Padron. And, it was very cathartic to write it.
But it was. What interests me about that whole story is that was basically the drug that he was taking was a prescription drug, was it not?
Yeah, it's heavy. I don't even think they make it anymore. Here's another thing: is he really died 35 minutes later, probably, of a heart attack. He ripped the phone off the wall in the kitchen, so he was still out of it, not himself. And but I thought he was going to be all right. I mean,
I've seen drugs, the prescription drugs that hurt people just as bad, if not worse, than street drugs.
Absolutely. I mean, at least more than pot. I mean, nobody dies from that. And then they give you something for depression, and it makes you suicidal. So you never know. Fentanyl's very bad, but hopefully they don't use it anymore, because it was really a bad drug. I mean, people were getting it in Camden and cutting heroin with something that's 50 times stronger. Well, they were dying left and right. And I don't know what, if you're a junkie and your best friend ODs, you know what you say? Where'd he cop?
Mm-hmm.
It's sick. It's a shame.
Yeah, years ago, I was sitting, this is very quick, and then you can do another tune. I was sitting in a dentist chair, and I knew I was in this 6-piece swing band in Seattle, Washington. And this gentleman that was working on my teeth starts talking about music, and I said, yeah, in between him grinding on my teeth with a little pick, I said, yeah, I play music, and I'm in the music business. He said, oh. He said, did you know so-and-so? And I said, yeah, I did know him. I said, he played in a band that I was in. Well, a few years ago, he said, I got a phone call about midnight to go do a dental check on this gentleman. I pulled back, and I looked at this dentist, and I said, he's gone? He said he died in a heroin den, and he overdosed, and they buried him. And the people that he was with, and they didn't find him for a long time. That's a horror story, basically. I mean, I was sitting in this dentist chair, I about fell on the floor, because I played music with this guy for a couple of years. And it's sad. Music, they say musicians are a bunch of whatevers, but I'll tell you, when it comes right down to it, it isn't the musicians as much as it is the business. The business is not a good business to be in. Richard has a lot of talent, Nashville talent. I know a lot of people who do, and they get taken advantage of. Sometimes the industry decides that they're going to do something with this person, and most of the industry knows nothing about the actual art of writing music. Nothing. So then they take somebody like Richard, who does, and a lot of times if they can talk him into it, they'll take everything that he's got.
Yeah, I mean, my first publishing deal was good, but...
what did you take on your first publishing, out of curiosity? 60-40?
Well, yeah, but in their favor. They got 50% plus 10% for administration.
Right.
And, what I thought is Bob Gaudio, man, he's a publisher, then he's going to get me cuts. But the deal is he's a producer-publisher. So really, he wanted publishing because he wanted the Neil Diamond cut, and he wanted, he got me a record deal I signed a production deal with him. And, excuse me, I'm really thin and I'm just a little chilly, so it's okay.
Sure.
I mean, you don't have to do nothing. It's just something.
Well, I can
telling you in case my nipples start showing through the shirt.
Hey, you can start playing a tune and I'll crank the heat up just a little bit.
Okay, let me think. Oh, here's one. I've written many songs, but this is the only one that's written completely in metaphor. And my wife Rosie's in the next room, watching it on the screen. And well, anyway, I wrote it with Jace Hine and Ronnie Bynes, and she had just come home after we finished it, and I played it for her, and she started crying, and I started crying. It's not easy to make me cry.
Sometimes good music does that, though.
Yeah, but this is just different because it's entirely in metaphor, and I mean it. If I were an oak tree My roots would run deep in the fertile ground beneath your feet, and I'd shade you with these mighty arms that hold my leaves, and you could lean on me if I were an oak tree. If I were the heavenly sky, you'd be the compass that keeps the moon and stars in line, and I'd be watching over you both day and night from up on high. If I were the heavenly sky. But if I were the rain, would you run from me? If I were the rain, pouring down on a cold, dark day. If I were the rain, would that change everything? Or would you drink me in, take me as I am? If I were the rain, if I were a song, you'd be the harmony to a feeling deep inside of me, and the music that we'd make would last eternally. We'd go on and on. If I were a song, but if I were the rain, would you run from me? If I were the rain, pouring down on a cold, dark day. If I were the rain, would that change everything? Or would you drink me in? Tell me as I, take me as I am, if I were the rain.
That's a great tune.
Thanks. I flubbed the chord, but I knew a guy played bass. Whenever he'd hit a clam, he'd look at his amp.
I used to do that. I used to do that on stage all the time. Not once I started playing on bigger stages, I couldn't get away with that. But when I was in clubs, I used to do it all the time. It's like somebody else made this mistake.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking. Did you write that up for your wife?
No, but I mean, that's one that as I wrote it, I mean, with all I'd been through, like I thought, I've been the rain, By the way, with the whole thing with Tom, like everybody that knew us knew it didn't happen that way without anybody saying anything. The same day that it took up the whole front page and half of the back page of the Tennessean, Peter Cooper put an article on the top of the back page that said, "This can't be right. I had lunch with these guys 2 weeks ago." So, but they blew it all out of proportion because of the music business. And Sherry O'Terry is Tom's daughter. And so, the headline was like, famous songwriter. And by the way, that's the only time you're going to see famous songwriter, as if you're arrested for something.
Or if you're dead.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad, arrest, it was bad. There's some of the headlines are still around. And
some of the writers here in town that you've written with, have you done any co-writing with anybody?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's co-write in town. When I first moved here, Mickey James was the guy I came to visit. And then through him, I met Larry Alderman. And I knew Patty Ryan. I started writing with Patty Ryan, and then Larry wanted to write with Patty, so we wrote a three-way, and that was Americana, which was number 8 for Mo Bandy in '88. So it just kind of goes around. And from then I met the Kennedy Boys, so I wrote Can't Play the Blues in an Air-Conditioned Room with Gordon Kennedy in '86. And by the way, Gordon Kennedy went on to write Change the World for Eric Clapton. I mean, he wrote it. He played it for me when we lived in this apartment, me and Tom, and he's like as close as the candelabra, and it's like it sounds like the Beatles when Gordon played it. And then it was a Winona cut. And then, anyway, Winona didn't want it as a single, and Tony Brown played it for the music supervisor. So anyway, cool. And then I mean, just other people. I mean, Bernie Nelson, I knew in '86, and we didn't really write until '09. But eventually, you're going to write. Wood Newton, same way. I've only written with him a few years ago, but we all know each other, kind of us from the old days, and eventually we all write.
Do you enjoy writing, co-writing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the most important co-writers is, you know, I was the first person to write with Kim Williams. Peggy Bradley, when she was still in the Buddy Lee building, said, you usually never hear anything good from out of town, but listen to this. And it was a tearjerker called Whiskey Wings. And she told me this guy, his name's Kim Williams, and he was burned real bad in an electrical fire. I mean, he arced out. I mean, I don't know what percent, but a lot of his body. So he had recouped in the hospital. I mean, it was like years of surgeries and stuff, or it's probably 2 years. And so he comes to Nashville and he said, you know, if I make a dime at country music, I'll lose my disability, but I got to try it. Well, so I'm the first guy that he wrote with. So Peggy Bradley felt bad for him and thought he was talented. So she somehow was talking to Bob Doyle, Major Bob Music.
Who that is?
Yeah, and he said, well, I'm not looking for any writers right now, you know, because she was trying to get him a pub deal. And he said, but if he's that good, send him over. I'll write. He could write with my artist writer, Garth Brooks. Thank you. By the way, Garth Brooks opened for me at the Holiday Inn at the what is it, the Commodore Lounge.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was the last one to go. I was the featured writer.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Wow.
I remember when he got his deal.
It had to be after 80, 89, 90. It was in the early 90s.
Yeah, I think 90s. It was, because I remember when he got his deal.
Might have been 90, 91.
That's something to say.
He was good, and he had the big hat, which like nobody had a hat like that. But he wasn't like squirting people with water or climbing on the amps, and I thought he was good. And Tom had said you ought to say hello to that guy. Well, Bob Doyle and Jimmy Rogers were in the audience. You know, honeycomb, you know, that Jimmy Rogers. And so there's only this moment in passing, and I just, you know, thought, well, I'll talk to them after the show, but they left. So it wasn't for years later that I got to finally talk to them again.
I think it was in 1990, early 90s, that I used to go out with a gentleman out to that place out at Offerland. It was a restaurant, but I seen Randy Travis, before he was Randy Travis, cooking in this place.
Randy Trawick.
Yeah, and he would come out during certain parts of the night, and he would sing with the band. And, you know, you're sitting out there and you're listening to him and you're thinking, well, that guy's pretty good. And not only was he pretty good, it was about probably 6 months, 8 months later, and he had the deal. And then he just went up from there. But it was kind of amazing. The lady who had backed him and was his manager, I believe.
Libby
Can't remember her last name. She was always in the audience and always cheered him on. And everybody else, I mean, people got to the point to where they came to see him. Huh. They would come in for dinner just to see him come out from the back. He was actually washing dishes there.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. You see all those people and you think about them later. I was also working on a station in Russellville, Kentucky. When I first got here, Red Vocard, who ended up with Merle Haggard, great guitar player, and myself, Clint Gregory, who ended up with Step One Records, monster player and singer and writer, and Billy Dean. Billy Dean was fronting this group, and I was playing guitar. And all it was just a little radio station on Saturday nights, and all these guys were working on this stage. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. And then Billy Dean got his deal. So I watched a few of them sign and go. It was kind of neat.
You know, when we were rolling, me and Tom used to, on Fridays, well, just started out on Fridays, you know, we'd usually drop off CDs. At this point, there were CDs. And we used to meet at a few people at Danzo's for happy hour because they had free pizza. And that's another thing. Starving songwriters love happy hours with free food. But anyway, it became a Friday tradition for 4:30, and we called ourselves the Algonquin Round Table. And so when we were really rolling, it was at Sammy B's, and a lot of people, there was this sort of our circle and then a lot of other people kind of hanging around. And I found out years later that Kenny Chesney was like hanging around. Hi, I'm a singer. Good. Yeah. Anyway, so I missed a lot of things.
Yeah, when you come here, and I think Rich would agree, you got to stay here. You can't leave, Because you got to get a job if you have to, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, and promote your music and do what you can. But don't leave, because if you leave, then you're like everybody else. And what they do is they go home and they blame everything that happened here on Nashville. And it's not Nashville's fault. There's tons of talent here, and around every corner. There's writers and singers and whatever. And the next thing you know, somebody's taking your place if you leave. So if you stick around, it's a lot better off.
You know, Tim Dubois, I've heard in an interview that, okay, you want to be a recording artist. Think of this. In any given genre, there were 5 major labels. Now there's 3. Really, there's 3. And, you know, there's only so many. How many artists are they going to have? So let's just say 10 that they're pushing. And so 5 labels, 10 artists. That gives you 50 chances in the whole world to be somebody. I mean, 50 chances in the whole world. Now, if you're a songwriter, most of these artists are now writing, I mean, thanks to the publishing company signing them, even though they didn't write a lick, because they can hook them up with writers and get them a record deal. I mean, you know, it's very hard to make a living. But you know what? I still say it beats a real job, because I love doing it.
Well, yeah, and you also have the gift. There's a gift involved with this. If you have the gift, that you can't stop. I can't stop. I mean, I've got to play and sing. If I don't, I'm going to end up blowing up.
It's good for us. It's healthy.
It is.
I think it's healthy to play. How are we doing time-wise?
I don't know. We're probably doing pretty good. Well, how much time, Nancy?
It's been about 45 minutes. It's just 9:18.
That's good. We can fit in a few more songs.
Okay.
I don't know what to do. Well, maybe I'll...
Well, it's your show, and it's wrapped around you, so you do whatever you'd like to do.
I usually finish with this one, but we can be anticlimactic because, you know, ever since, when Philly Billy started getting together doing the Bluebird, I mean, we were like regulars there. It's me, Joe Collins, and Casey Jones, and it's mainly around my songs, and then in the middle, Casey does 5 or 6, and Joe does a couple. But anyway, around that time, you know, we started doing the parody because everybody, I mean, they were playing it a lot on the radio, so everybody knew that. So we just played the parody, which was the Cletus T. Judd cut called "Stole the Copyright Infringement Incident." You know, so. And this is sort of an inside joke. So for Nashville songwriters, here you go. Well, I went down to a Music City function where I heard something I just had to have. My lawyer told me to proceed with caution, or else he'll make a lot of songwriters mad. But I said, hey, I bet John Michael won't mind, for took this song and made a man on mine, like I did so many times with Tim McGraw. Yeah, I never heard anything sound so fine. Mind the pop bar 1 or 2 year lines. Well, I stole it once, stole it twice, stole it from a writer on Music Row. He just moved to town and he didn't know about ASCAP, C-Sec, or BMI, so we might as well kiss his song goodbye. Had my number 2 pencil going about a mile a minute, till I had his ideas all written down, and I knew I was really getting in it when the police came and hauled my butt downtown. But I said, hey, I thought John Michael won't mind if I took his song and made a man on mine, like I did so many times with Tim McGraw. Yeah, I never heard anything sound so fine. Mind if I borrow 1 or 2 year lines? Well, I stole it once, stole it twice, stole that song, and I must confess, when I went to court, I pled no contest. Got a big fat lip and 2 black eyes. Well, I never should have messed with his copyright. Yeah, I told that judge I had writer's block, but they hauled my ass away. Now it hurts too much to laugh about the song I stole that day, when I said, hey, I bet John Michael won't mind if I took his song and made a man on mine, like I did so many times with Tim McGraw. Yeah, I never heard anything sound so fine. Mind if I borrow 1 or 2 year lines? Well, I stole it once, stole it twice, stole it from a writer on Music Row. We just moved to town and he didn't know about ASCAP, C-Sec, or BMI, so we might as well kiss his song goodbye.
That's a hilarious. There's a lot of truth in that song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you're down here for a while, you end up getting hooked up with all these different organizations that will. If you don't get hooked up with them, you don't get any royalties. So you got to get hooked up.
You got to be ASCAP, CSAC, or BMI.
Yeah.
Unless you're at Happy Birthday. I don't understand it, but that's some kind of weird little animal that's unto itself.
I haven't heard. What is that?
Happy Birthday to You is a registered song, and it doesn't belong to ASCAP, CSAC, or BMI, but somehow they're, they still get paid on it, I think.
Well,
or they did for a long time,
It's interesting to me. I was in a house one afternoon, and I was working on the Steinway piano. I touch up pianos that are damaged and dinged, and this gentleman has a pipe organ in his house, and I'd never seen a pipe organ in the house before. So this little 9-year-old girl came to the door, and she says, "Uncle so-and-so," she said, "it's my birthday today." So he's got a pipe organ, he's got a 9-foot Steinway I'm working on in this house. And the little girl looks at him, she said, "Would you mind on your organ firing it up and playing Happy Birthday for me?" So he fires this organ up, and he goes to play Happy Birthday, and he gets happy, and then about 4 or 5 misses, and he shuts the organ off. And I looked over the Steinway, and he turns around, looks at the little girl, and he says, "Honey, I don't have the music for that. We can't." And that's the truth now. And I was sitting over there. So when we got through, I said, the little girl left and her mom, and I said, "Sir, can I ask you a question?" I said, "What is it that you do for a living?" He said, "I play music." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Where do you play?" He said, "I play in church." I said, "Oh, you strictly read?" He said, "Yeah, I don't play at all unless I have something to read." And, a lot of teachers and stuff that teach piano as well as guitar and whatever, they don't play unless they have the notes in front of them. But I found it interesting because Happy Birthday is kind of, you started talking about it, and I started thinking about that. Kind of blew me away a little bit. Somebody wouldn't know Happy Birthday.
Well, ASCAP was the first, and they started out because Stephen Foster, died penniless. And, his songs are public domain today, but everybody knows he wrote them. So they started, but by the time BMI came along, they were, to me, a little bit elitist, but they're, somebody asked me one time, no, actually, I heard this when I first got to town, I heard from an old timer. Like somebody asked him, I was already an ASCAP, I had no choice, it was part of my record deal. But somebody asked, "What should I join, ASCAP, CSAC, or BMI?" And the guy said, "Well, it all depends. You want to be shot, stabbed, or hung."
I've been with BMI for many, many years. I was with BMI.
I'm with them too.
Are you?
Now.
I was before I got down here. I was hooked up with a couple of studios up in Seattle I was writing commercials for Raleigh Bicycle and some different companies and whatever. And I got hooked up in a really good studio up there, and I had no choice. I had to pick one. This guy said the same thing. Pick one. Doesn't make a difference which one you pick. So I picked BMI, and I've been with them ever since. I've had good luck with them. They've always sent me my royalties, and I've got a publishing company with them. I've had up and running for about probably 10 years now. I don't know. I think they all work. As long as you get your royalties and stuff, that's what they're set up for.
Yeah, and when you have a hit, they're all fairly comparable. And, as far as one paying more than the other, when I got here, everybody was complaining that ASCAP paid more than BMI. And 8 years later, it was the reverse, and everybody was... So then ASCAP made some matching policy, which, by the way, I found out was never written down and was never really a policy. It was a series of, I can't really talk about it because, I signed a confidentiality agreement. So forget that. Forget what I said. Ooh. That was the chair.
So you worked as a staff writer?
Well, for myself. Me and Tom started the publishing company. And
how long was the publishing company running?
Well, Of Music, we started in L.A. in 83. Yeah, because I used to, I had a pop record deal, but I really didn't feel plugged into the business. I didn't tour, I didn't do anything. I sat at home and wrote songs, went in the studio, cut an album. So I co-wrote a song with this girl. I can't even remember her name. But anyway, she put out a little 45. Lisa Lee was the name she used on there. And anyway, there was nobody demanding publishing, so we just started our own company just to do that.
Well, publishing is where the money is.
Well, yeah, a good half of it. But, my deal now with Tom Jr. is, he can have all the publishing money and I keep all the writer's money, and that's fine with me because you get a hit, it's all good. I don't need the headache. And it's sort of going on with carrying the legacy on in a simpler form.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. There is some headaches involved with publishing. And that's why a lot of the guys relinquish their publishing over to someone else, I guess. But when I first started doing this years and years ago, I decided to go in another direction and start a publishing company, and I kept my own.
If you can, it's better to, unless it gets too complex. And then, it's like I have Criterion was doing administration after '09, but they just sold to Universal, so somehow Universal's my administrator, and the first little check from them, it had something about, Bo Goldson's letter, how wonderful this is, and he's a great guy, and Criterion was great, but there was a little contract to sign. They wanted to be able to, they only do direct deposits, and they want to be able to make direct withdrawals, so that still sits on my kitchen table, because I ain't signing that. Well, guess what? The checks come in the mail twice a year, the mechanicals. No problem. It's just I can't seem to get them to answer me to license anything, but it's okay. I told people, just send me the money. If they complain, I'll say, well, you should be accessible. So anyway, it's a crazy biz. But if you have a hit, it's a whole new set of problems, and it ain't bad.
So you're still pitching?
Yeah, just not as much as I should be, but I do. It's hard to get in, and I think when Capitol sort of took over Universal, my connection there is there's more buffers. There's people there I know, but I don't think I'm getting to them. Hopefully the drop-offs get to them, but I don't know.
Well, the one good thing is that you've got a productive name. Basically, you've already done this, and they know who you are.
And I know I can get a cut. It's just a matter of when, and I got nothing better to do, so it's better to have hope than despair, don't you think?
Oh, heavens, yes. Yeah, and that's one of the things about the music business. There's an awful lot of people who lose hope, and I think that's why a lot of people come here and leave, is they lose hope that anything is ever going to happen for them. But man, I've seen so many people that did come, that stuck around, that were not as good as a lot of the people who left, who opened doors. And maybe they didn't open the big doors, but they opened enough doors to make it worth their while to stay here, as far as the music business goes. Yeah. I'm an independent, and I have an independent label, and that's the direction I wanted to go, because I'd seen so many people that were artists that were disgruntled with their deals, and telling me that they were paying for fuel and the buses as they went down the road, along with everything else. And after about 4 or 5 major stars telling me that, and I'm going, what's wrong with this picture here? There's something definitely wrong. And a lot of them were writing their own songs, and they were relinquishing publishing as well as et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. I got to the point to where I thought, age-wise too, where it was just better to go in that direction. That's what I did.
Yeah, if you love it, you got to do it, and it's to the fates. But something incredible can happen too. Nothing happens. And out of the blue, something happens.
That's true.
Keep the hope, because it can. Some of my cuts happened when I was out of town. Nothing was happening for a year or two, and then Patty Loveless's husband and producer calls me and wanted me to change some words in the song that they were going to cut the next day. And I called Gordon Kennedy and actually get him on the phone. This is magic. Of course, the song went nowhere. It was Collin Raye's on his last album, but great production, cool song.
That's pretty neat.
Oh, wait, I'm talking about Patty Loveless. No, it wasn't on her album, but it was in the soundtrack of Tin Cup. And it was the B-side of the George Jones duet, You Don't Seem to Miss Me. Boy, one thing's all connected to everything, ain't it?
It is. It is. That's the one thing. See, you're connected in that direction. And this time you've been here long enough to be connected like that.
Well, you know what?
You got one more tune?
Yeah, I'm going to actually try this song I was telling you about, that I wrote this with Christopher Clark. He was our staff writer for 10 years. And
turn up your guitar just a little bit on this. This is a soft one.
Well, I can't. You have to.
Oh, I will. I'll turn it up for you.
Here, I'll just keep doing this. But anyway, this is a misogynist blues song with a happy ending for the ladies. I hope I can play this.
Hey now, pretty mama, sure all looking fine. Here we are parked in my car, better keep one thing in mind, it's a long walk home. It's a long walk home. I hope you got your good shoes on, 'cause it's a long walk home. Didn't I buy you dinner? Took you to a show. Now we're here on Lover's Lane, honey, do you wanna stay or go? It's a long walk home. It's a long walk home. I hope you got your good shoes on, 'cause it's a long walk home. Oh, pluck it. Steaming up the window, radio down low. If you ain't going all the way, you got a long, long way to go. It's a long walk home. It's a long walk home. I hope you got your good shoes on, 'cause it's a long walk home. Do you believe in the hereafter? Well, you will be for too long. If you ain't here after what I'm here after, you're gonna be here after I'm gone. It's a long walk home. It's a long walk home. I hope you got your good shoes on, 'cause it's a long walk home. Well, I don't know how it happened. It all went down so fast. She pushed me out and locked the door and stepped down on the gas. And now I'm standing on the roadside as I watch her drive away. With her finger out the window, I can swear I hear her say, it's a long walk home. It's a long walk home. I hope you got your good shoes on, 'cause it's a long walk home. It's a long walk home. It's a long walk home. I hope you got your good shoes on, 'cause it's a long walk home. Yeah, I'm glad I got my good shoes on, 'cause it's a long walk home.
That's a great song.
Thank
I
you.
like that a lot. To my left over here again, this is Richard Fagan. My name is Ronnie Dean. This is Nashville Side Streets, and you can get us at just NashvilleSideStreets.com, or you can punch up RonnieDean.com, and you can go from there to Nashville Side Streets. And our email address is Ronnie, RONNIE, Dean61 at Comcast.net. So you can email us anytime you'd like. If you'd like to be on the show, you can email me a cell phone video, about 1 minute of yourself.
Or they can go through Reverb Nation or Sonic Bids.
Yeah,
if
that's
they're
true.
a member of those.
Yeah, that's right. That's my wife in there, and she's running the show. Thank you very much. We'll see you again. Thanks, Richard.
Good. And that's it, huh?